Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Aquarium Online Academy. My name is Sarah. I'm part of the Education Department here at the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach, California, and you are joining us for another episode of Aquarium Live. Now, before we get started and we start talking with Captain Joe, I did want to let everyone know that if you have any questions or you want to share some observations with us today, we do have a text number. You can send us in those questions and observations, and we're going to get that number up on the screen in just a second. And you can text in those questions. Now, make sure that you have adult permission, and keep in mind that text and data rates do apply, but that number is right here. It's 562-286-1838. So send in your questions, your observations, anything you'd like to know about the stuff we are talking about, and we'd love to hear from you. Now, if you are watching this program after it's already aired, it is 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on June 30th. So if you are watching after that time and you have questions, you can still send them in, but we have an email address for you. You're going to email those questions to live@lbaop.org. Once again, that email address is live@lbaop.org. So that's after we've aired. But you can send your questions into this text line if you're watching with us live. So we're going to get started. We are going to talk with Captain Joe about if animals play. So we're going to explore some of the animals that we have here at the aquarium and see if they play. So let's take a look. All right, we're going to check in with Captain Joe.
Hello, boys and girls. It's Captain Joe of the Ocean Rangers. I'm here at the aquarium today investigating if our animals really do play.
That's a wonderful question. You know, I heard that our penguins can be quite playful and energetic. Maybe that's a good place to start.
I'll meet you over there.
All right, we're going to head on over to our penguin exhibit. Oh, you know what? First, because we like to play, while Joe heads over to our penguin exhibit, we are going to do a game ourselves. So we are going to play a puzzle. So we're going to bring an image on the screen, and it's going to show you parts of that image, and we're going to try and guess what animal this picture is. So we have that text number. You can text in your guesses. So let's take a look at this puzzle. All right, so we are looking at the color gray. So it's an animal that is gray. All right, so we've got 3 pieces of this puzzle so far. What do you see? What do you think this is? Have any guesses yet? We only have part of this animal, but we see, a triangle shape right here. And we see another triangle shape here and here. So we see some shapes. I also see that gray coloring along. I'm gonna assume this is the body. But I also see some spots. It also looks like this animal's body is pretty long, right? We've got lots of fins down the length of the body and gray and spots. I wonder what this animal could be. If you have a guess, go ahead and send it in. Now, this animal, I will give you a hint. We have them here at the aquarium. So we can see this animal when we're exploring here at our facility. Any guesses? All right, I think we might have some guesses coming in. Now, I'm not alone here in the studio. I'm joined by Dana, who is changing the screen behind me. She's waving and saying good morning to everyone. And then Cynthia is here, and she is taking all of your questions. And she brought in a question, and she said that Lauren sees a leopard shark. All right, let's take a look and see if that is correct. We got another picture. See another fin. And another fin. And another. Excellent. So those observations were correct, or those guesses were correct. This is a leopard shark. And like I said, we have this animal here at our aquarium. Maybe we'll pull up our exhibit that has this animal. We're going to give Dana a second to pull up our blue cavern exhibit. So blue cavern is a kelp forest habitat. And in that kelp forest habitat is where you'll find leopard sharks. Now, leopard sharks are a smaller shark species. They really only get about 5 or 6 feet long. So here is where we would find leopard sharks. We may have to watch a couple minutes and see if we can find them if they come through our screen. But this is the habitat where you'll find them. And they eat things that are found in the sand. So they're what we call bottom feeders because their mouth is on the bottom. And like I said, they only get about 5 or 6 feet long, which isn't very long. It's about my size. All right, let's see if we can find. Oh, it's kind of hard to see. Right here. We're going to get rid of that text bar. There we go. You can see the back end of one of our leopard sharks hanging out on the bottom. Excellent. All right, so we played our own game, but now let's check in with Joe and see if he found anything about our penguins and how they play. Captain Joe? Wait, what are you doing? Are you playing?
Oh, hey kids. We're here at our Magic Landing Penguin exhibit. We're just taking some observational data to see if we do have penguins that really play here at the aquarium.
All right, that sounds great. Can we join you? All right, so we're going to go with Captain Joe and make some observations of penguins.
They seem to be very curious about their environment, but I wonder how that helps them in their habitat.
So here's our penguin habitat. And we can make some observations about what we see happening in this habitat. Oh, I see some penguins flying. Oh, I see these penguins and their heads with their beak. Oh, and they're flapping their wings. So they might look like fins or flippers, but because penguins are birds, those are their wings. Oh, it kind of looks like they're playing here. They're kind of chattering with each other. Do penguins make noises? It's a good question to think about. I also notice the colors on these penguins. So some other observations we can make are these penguins are 2 colors that I see. Black and white. Oh, here's Captain Joe. Looks like he's making some more observations. Oh, and he's sharing it with, that's an emperor penguin. He looks like he's sharing those observations. Joe, maybe you want to share those observations with a staff member? Someone who works with penguins? I don't know if that penguin can give you the answers you're looking for on those questions. So while Joe goes to find one of our staff members, we are going to check in with an aviculturist. Now that's a big fancy word, but what that means is it's someone on our staff here who works with our birds. So we're going to check in with one of our aviculturists and ask them or talk to them about what it's like to work with our birds. And we're going to meet one of the birds that we have here at the aquarium.
Hi, my name is Kara. I'm an aviculturist here at the aquarium in the Pacific. That just means that I take care of a lot of the birds that live here at the aquarium. And this is Lola. Lola is one of our program animals. He is a sulfur-crested cockatoo. Our program animals are animals that we take to other places like schools, and we do presentations with him here to educate the public about animals in the wild. Right? Can you say hi? Good boy. Blow kisses. Good boy. So some of the things we do for Lola during his playtime are we like to give him a bath sometimes. Sometimes he likes to have toys that he likes to play with. Sometimes he likes to just do really fun behaviors. Lola is about as smart as a 3 or 4-year-old child, so he likes to do really, really fun things. He actually likes to do these behaviors that we do with him, so it's fun time for him. Even though it's a training session, it's also fun.
All right, maybe we'll get a chance to look at some of the behaviors or the play behaviors that Lola likes to participate in.
Peekaboo! Good boy.
Bye, Lola. So those are some really fun behaviors that we got to see Lola participating in. Lola can bounce and spread his wings and move his claws and its beak. And those look like play, but they're also just to make sure that Lola is staying healthy and active. So it's play, but it's also for their health care. Now, before we move on, because we have another game coming up, another puzzle that we're going to do, we did have a question come in. And Alex wants to know, can penguins swim faster than people can run? Now, penguins swim about 4 to 7 miles an hour. So, could be comfortable if you're a really good runner. You might run about 6 miles an hour. That's a 10K run. Could do it in. So it kind of depends on how fast you run. But penguins swim about 4 to 7 miles an hour. That was a great question. Thanks, Alex. All right, are you all ready for another puzzle? So it's going to be similar to that first one, but we're going to focus on a different color. So Dana, pull it up. What color are we going to focus on? Green. All right, think about animals we find in the ocean that are green. All right, let's take a look at what we can see so far. Not much of this body, but I see a little bit down here. It looks like patterns, different shapes. And there's a little bit right here. And then a little bit, maybe the middle of the body here. Ooh, and then this right here. It looks different than the rest of the body. Doesn't look super green, but maybe kind of green tinged. I wonder what this animal could be. Any ideas? Oh, I heard Cynthia said that someone texted in their guess was a sea turtle. What do you all think? Do you agree? Thumbs up if you agree. Let's take a look. Excellent! It's a sea turtle, and it's actually a green sea turtle. Now, green sea turtles are really neat animals. We have them here along our coast, and in fact, not even just along our coast, we now have one here at the aquarium. So we have a new member to our family here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. His name is Copper, and he is a green sea turtle who just joined us in the last couple of months. He lives in our tropical gallery, and if you come visit us, you'll be able to take a look at Copper, our green sea turtle. All right. So we are going to move on to look at some other animals that might play. So let's take a look at what we can find. So we have a video we're going to show of some of the animals we have here that, just like Lola, they participate in some behaviors that might look like play, but it's also to make sure that they're staying healthy and fit. All right, so this is with our seals and sea lions. So that is a frisbee, just like we would play with a frisbee. Our sea lions can play catch, just like we might play catch with our friends or our siblings or our parents. Or our dogs even. We might play fetch with our dogs. So the people you see here working with these animals, they are called mammalogists. So just like I mentioned aviculturists before, our staff who work with birds, mammalogists work with mammals. So at our aquarium, that includes seals, sea lions, and our sea otters. There's a good view of our sea lions. They're moving their flippers, walking on their front flippers, playing catch, and jumping out of the water. We call this a pillar. They go really high. They can even stick out their tongue. Did you see that last image where our sea lions stuck out their tongue a little bit? That's another behavior that we teach our animals. So when our mammalogists work with those seals and sea lions, they teach them these behaviors that to us might look like play. And it is play for them, but it also helps keep them healthy. It helps keep them fit. So some of the things like that pillar, that movement where that sea lion jumps straight up out of the water and back down, helps keep them physically fit. Think about when we're in school or even when we're at home and we go to PE at school, or maybe you go for a walk or you ride your bike, and that's to keep our body moving and healthy. We do those same kinds of things with our animals. So that pillar is a high energy behavior for our sea lions. Sometimes we'll have them do what we call porpoise, and that's where they move like this in and out of the water, up and down. And that takes a lot of energy and it keeps their body nice and fit. So we do a lot of these, we call it enrichment behaviors with our animals. Now, we're going to with Captain Joe in just a second, but I did get some more questions. So we're going to look at these questions and then we'll see what Captain Joe is up to. All right, Lauren wants to know, how old is Copper? Ooh, how old is our new green sea turtle? So Copper is about 11 years old, which in the life of a sea turtle is not that old. All right, Serene wants to know, do sea turtles play? That is a great question. You know, I'm not too sure if sea turtles play. Sea turtles, for the most part, tend to be more solitary animals, so we don't often see them in big groups. They may interact with each other if they're all feeding in the same area, and we know that big groups of sea turtles will be on the beaches, especially when the eggs hatch. But for the most part, they're kind of solitary. But just because an animal is solitary doesn't mean that animal might not play, right? I know that we all have played on our own. Sometimes we make up games for ourselves. Even drawing is playing on our own. So they still might play on their own, even if they're not interacting with other animals. All right, let's take a look and see what Captain Joe is up to.
Welcome back, boys and girls. I'm here with my friend Matt. He works with a lot of our birds here at the aquarium. Matt, we're investigating if our animals here at the aquarium like to play. Can you help us out with that question?
Oh yeah, most of our animals are naturally curious. Our penguins especially like to investigate their surroundings. They like to look under the water and above the water. So we like to give them enrichment, things to play with while they do that.
Now, enrichment. Can you explain a little bit more about what that means to our guests?
Sure. Enrichment is a way of keeping our animals from being bored, from being lazy. It keeps their mind stimulated and it keeps their body active, just like kids would play with toys. And we like to use things like balls and dog toys, and they even like to play with bubbles.
Bubbles? Yeah, some of these are actually looking very familiar to me. I'm sure a lot of our guests have seen these before.
Sure, it's the same type of thing that you would use for your pets at home.
Awesome, very cool. And I imagine these are probably pretty fun for our animals.
We like to think so.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Matt, I'm sure you have a lot of things that you have to do, get back to our animals. If it's okay, do you think I can maybe hang out with these toys for a little while and maybe play with our penguins?
Maybe for a little bit, but they're going to want them back because they use their enrichment every day.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and I'll bring them back to you for sure. Matt, thank you so much. Back to you at the studio.
All right. Well, I hope Captain Joe has fun playing with those toys and does make sure he brings them back, because we give our animals enrichment every day. So we saw a little bit of the toys that our penguins might play with, and we saw in that video before we talked to Captain Joe about the enrichment that we give our seals and sea lions. Now we're going to go back and talk about our seals and sea lions, because that's a good way to explain how we teach them or how we use these enrichment with our animals. So I think we're going to bring up an image of one of our sea lions with maybe some type of enrichment. So enrichment can be toys, like here with this frisbee. Enrichment can be toys. It can be interactions with the mammalogists. It can even be interactions with food. Now, the way that we teach these kinds of behaviors, like to teach that sea lion to catch that frisbee, or even those things like that pillar before, or porpoising when they move in and out of the water, jumping up and down. The way we teach these behaviors is something called positive reinforcement. Now, what that means is we teach them step by step how to do these actions, and every time they do these actions correct, they get rewarded. Now, think about if you're trying something, maybe if you're doing a math problem or you're trying something new, what kind of reward would you want if you did something good? For our animals, it's food. That's a great one, right? We like to get food when we do things correctly, or at the end of a long day when you've worked really hard, it's nice to have a good meal. So for our animals, we give them food as a reward for doing the correct behavior. So every time they do something correct, we'll give them food. Now, their food is going to be things like fish or shrimp, maybe some squid, and that is a positive reinforcement. It shows them they did a good job and they get that reward. Now, with our sea lions and our seals, we will use something called a target. So for our mammalogists, they might use just their hand like this, and they'll hold their hand out, and this fist at the end is that target. And so they'll start by teaching the sea lion to touch their nose to their fist, and that's the target. And from there is when the sea lion has mastered that behavior, whenever a mammalogist puts their fist out and the sea lion touches their nose to their hand, they get a reward, and they know that that is the correct behavior. From there, our mammalogists can continue to teach them more behaviors using that target as the start. And sometimes our mammalogists, they may not use their fist, they might use a stick with a little buoy at the end. It's the same idea. It's a way to focus that energy so the sea lion's attention is all on that one place. They focus that energy, and then they can build from there, giving them new behaviors. So that is how we teach these behaviors, the things like catching, or we saw before in that video where the sea lion put its front flippers down and lifted its back flippers in the air, kind of like a handstand, or when they move their flippers like this. That's all taught behaviors that we use positive reinforcement to teach them those things. All right, we have a couple more questions that just came in, so let's take a look at these questions. So Kenneth wants to know, what's a sea lion's length as an adult? Great question. So it ranges from about 5 to 7 feet long. So I'm 5'2". So that means that sea lions are about my size, maybe a little bit longer. Now we have 4 male sea lions here at the aquarium, and Parker is our largest sea lion. Now Parker is pretty large. Right now he's about 800 pounds, and that's totally natural for a sea lion. And he's 800 pounds now, but in the winter he'll slim down, and that also is natural. So in the wild, male sea lions will gain weight as it comes to the summer, because in the summer they're going to sit on the beach and they're going to look for a girlfriend. And they don't want to leave the beach because if they leave the beach to go find food, then they're going to lose their spot. So they'll eat all this food, they'll bulk up really big so they can sit on the beach. Now, all our sea lions are males, but it's a hormonal change in their body, and so naturally they gain that weight and then they'll lose that weight. So our sea lions are all in that range of 5 to 7 feet, and they range from about 5 to 600 pounds to 800 pounds, which is what Parker weighs. All right, Kai wants to know, how do you feed the leopard sharks? Ooh, great question. Maybe we'll pull up some images of our leopard shark or go back to Blue Cavern. I'll let Dana figure out what she wants to put behind us. But that's a great question because it's actually really interesting how we feed our leopard sharks. So we have about 10 species of sharks here at the aquarium. And they range from size from really smaller bamboo sharks are only about 3 feet long to our zebra shark and our sand tiger shark, which are in the 10, 12 foot range. Oh, here's a great image of a leopard shark. Now, our leopard sharks are the only sharks that are fed by our divers when they go into the exhibits, and they're fed by hand. And leopard sharks, they are what we call bottom feeders. So their mouth is right there underneath them, sort of like it'd be underneath our chin, faces the bottom. It's different from other sharks whose mouth are right in front. And so because their mouth is on the bottom, and we call them bottom feeders, they naturally feed on things that live in the sand. Crustaceans, maybe shellfish, other things they can find that might be hidden in the sand. So our leopard sharks are the only sharks that are fed by our divers when they're in the water. The rest of our sharks, especially in our tropical gallery, which is our biggest exhibit here, are in the tropical exhibit. Our sharks are fed from a platform. So our divers will be above a platform. They're not in the water. And we've actually trained, just like we've trained our other animals, we've trained our sharks to feed from certain areas. And so we'll put a board that has a shape and a color in the water, and our sharks recognize those, and they know their spot to feed, and they will go to that exact spot when it's time to feed. But our leopard sharks are the ones that are fed by hand. Great question. All right, so here wants to know, do some of the different aquarium animals play with each other? Oh, that's a really interesting question. Maybe let's pull up, I'm going to let Dana choose. She's going to pull up one of our exhibits. So we have cameras in a lot of our exhibits, and they're on all day, and you can log on to our website and check out these live cams, and we can watch what our animals are doing. Now, the way we group our animals in their exhibits is how we look out in the wild. So in the natural habitat, we group them together. So these animals would truly be interacting with each other. Maybe we can make some observations and see if it looks like the animals are playing together. Let's take a look. Oh, so this is our penguin exhibit. So when we talked to Captain Joe, he was up at our penguin exhibit. And now we have a camera watching our penguins. So let's take a moment and see what they are doing. Kind of looks like they're just looking around. One of them's wiggling its body. Ooh, it just shook its little tail feathers. Well, here comes another penguin checking things out. Ooh, flapping its wings. That's always cute when they flutter their wings just like that. So what do you think? Does it look like these animals are playing with each other right now? Doesn't really look like they're interacting. So it might depend on how the animal's feeling. It might depend on the time of day. Sometimes these animals, they all live in the same area, but they don't really interact with each other. So that's a great question. It just depends on the animal, on what they're doing, and what their natural behaviors are like. In some of our other exhibits, we have sharks and fish together, and we don't really see them interacting too much because they naturally just kind of mind their own business. They do their own thing. So sometimes they might play with each other, sometimes they might interact, and sometimes they just do their own thing. It's kind of fun watching these penguins waddle. I wonder what they are doing over here. They're all kind of grouped together. What do you think? Maybe they're hiding from us. Maybe there's some food back there. I don't know. There could be a reason that they're all there together. All right. We have a couple more questions that just came in. So Maddie wants to know, do any animals make bubbles to play with like dolphins? And what are they used for? Ooh, that's a good question. So dolphins and whales, so another mammal that we find in the ocean, they often do use bubbles as a way to catch or to trap their prey. So there's something called bubble net feeding. It's a practice we commonly see in whales, specifically humpback whales, where they blow a lot of bubbles, and the fish that they eat, which are smaller fish, don't really like the bubbles, and so they all clump together. And that way, all those fish are clumped together. The fish think that they're staying safe together, but the whales are pushing them all together so that it's easier for them to feed. So I don't know if there's other animals besides whales or dolphins, did you know, that use bubbles to catch their food or to play. So they may not be using bubbles necessarily to play, but it's a way to catch their food. So it's another behavior. Now, Michael wants to know, are sea lions bigger than seals? Ooh, that is a good question. Are sea lions bigger than seals? So it does depend on the species, because there are some species of seals, like the elephant seal, which let's see if we can bring up a picture of an elephant seal. I'm going to give Dana a minute, but I think we have one. Elephant seals are one of the largest species of seals. So they are going to be larger than some of the species of sea lions. But there are some really large species of sea lions as well, like the Steller sea lion is the largest sea lion. And so it really just depends on the species. Now we're going to take a look at what an elephant seal looks like. Now you might be wondering, what is the difference between a seal and a sea lion? So we have both of those animals here in our seals and sea lion exhibit. So here is a big group of elephant seals. So it doesn't really give you a good idea of how big these animals can get, but they can get pretty large. Now, thinking about what makes them different, seals and sea lions, because like I said, their size isn't always what's going to tell them apart. So we like to focus on 4 things to tell seals and sea lions apart. So the first thing, at least for our sea lions and our seals here at the aquarium, is the coloration, or the color on their body. So our sea lions, we saw that video before where they were practicing all their enrichment behaviors. Their body is a solid brown color. And our seals that we have here, we have harbor seals. They are more what we call mottled, or where it's sort of a gray color with darker spots. So this is Parker. This is our big boy here. And his fur, you can see, is all a solid brown color. And our seals are going to be that spotted color. And we'll see if we can bring up a picture of one of our harbor seals. So that's the first way we tell the difference, is the color. Now, you might be out in the ocean, or here's a good picture. Look at those little spots. This seal is sunning themselves on a rock. Now, you might be out on a boat looking for seals and sea lions, and you may not be able to see the color of their fur, or you might be looking at a different species that maybe has different color fur. So fur is the first thing we look at here, but there's other ways to tell the difference. The second thing we look for are their ears. Now, if it's a sea lion like Parker, and you were to look at the side of the head, you would see an external ear just like us. Reach up and touch your ear. We have an external ear, and then our ear, it leads to our ear canal inside. Harbor seals, on the other hand, they do have ears. They have that ear canal, but externally, it's just a hole. So it kind of looks like their head is almost bald and no ear, but just a little hole behind their eye that leads to their ear. So first we look at fur, then we look at ears. The next thing you can look at are their flippers. So take your arms and hold them up high, wave them around in the air like you just don't care. These are your sea lion flippers. Oh, here's our seal. No, this is perfect. So right behind the eye, is this Kaya? This is Kaya. This is our sea lion pup. This right here is their ear canal. So Kaya doesn't have external ears. She just has that hole that leads inside. Now, we're going to keep this picture because, like I was saying, if you take your arms out wide and long, these are your sea lion flippers. So just like Parker, they have really long and strong flippers, and they use their front flippers to push themselves through the water. Now, take a look at Kaya. She is a baby, but it's not that she has baby flippers. Her flippers are just going to be really short. So seals' front flippers are really short. We kind of call them like little chicken wings. And they don't really use them to walk on land the same way a sea lion does. And when they're swimming through the water, their front flippers are used more for steering, and they use their tail more for swimming. And the last difference is their vocalization. So it's what they sound like. Now I want you to try and give me your best sea lion impression. Did you do it? It kind of sounds like a bark, like an ar, ar, ar. So that is what a sea lion sounds like. Now, on the other hand, if we were to listen to someone like Kaya, or a seal like Kaya, we might hear, P. That's about it. They're pretty quiet animals. So for the most part, we don't really hear their vocalization. So that's the fourth difference. So we go with fur, ears, flippers, and vocalization to tell the difference between these two animals. All right, we're going to get back to our questions because we have just like another minute or two, but we've got some more questions that came in. All right. Amaya wants to know, how big are sea lion babies? Ooh, they're about 2 to 2.5 feet long. And Lauren wants to know, are moon jellies playful? Ooh, they're your favorite, Lauren. I like moon jellies too. Moon jellies are a beautiful animal. And you know what? It's kind of hard to tell if they play. So moon jellies are an interesting animal in that they don't have a brain, they don't have a spine or any bones, and they don't have a heart. So their anatomy is very different than our anatomy. And so the way they play is going to appear very different. So and they are what we call plankton, which means they are drifters. So jellies just kind of drift. Now we see them all together in a big clump, but pretty much they're just going where the water pushes them. So we wouldn't say they play in the same traditional sense that we play, or even in the way that we teach enrichment to our animals. But they are pretty cool animals. We like them here too. All right, and Edward wants to know, where do seals live? Great question. And we're going to end with this question because we are about out of time. But Edward, seals live along the coast. So we have seals here. We can find them in oceans around the world. We have harbor seals here, but there are tons of different species of seals that can be found all over different parts of the ocean. Now, our harbor seals here, they live amongst the kelp forest, and then we'll see them, they what we haul out, which is where they bring the whole body out of the water, and we find them on the rocks, especially our break wall that kind of separates our harbor from the open ocean, and that's a good place for them to take a rest, to lie in the sun, to sleep, maybe just kind of get some sun before they're going to go back in the water, and likely hunt for food. All right, well, thank you all for joining us for this episode of Aquarium Online Academy and Aquarium Live. We have more programming today, so we hope we'll see you then. If not, have a good rest of your day.